One of the quickest stitches to use when hemming is the Overcast stitch. This stitch is sometimes called a slant hemming stitch, or when used to neaten seam allowances, a felling stitch. It has the added benefit of preventing loosely woven fabrics from fraying due to the way the thread is worked over the edge of the hem. I am using a linen for this sample, as its loose weave means it frays easily and so is perfect for an overcast hem. I like to use this stitch for narrow hems that need to be held firmly in place, and so I'm making my first hem fold only 1/4 inch wide. I use my fingernail to press the fold in place as linen holds creases really well. I make the 1/4 inch fold all along my hem, creasing it in place as I go. Once I reach the end of my hem, I go back and crease the hem again with my thumbnails to make sure it stays in place. For my second fold, I am turning the hem up another 1/4 inch, using my existing fold as a guide. I then pin the double fold in place and continue along the length of my hem. I make sure to fold the hem precisely and tightly so that my second fold is exactly the same width as my first one. I keep finger pressing the hem to make sure it is nice and secure, as well as pinning it in place. I then carefully press the hem in place with the iron, removing the pins as I go. I am using this bright flame colour so that you can see what I am doing, but I recommend using a thread that matches your fabric. It is best to use a fine sharps needle for hand sewing, like this one. Make sure to thread your needle before cutting the thread. You want your thread to be no longer than the distance from your wrist to your elbow. Both these things should help to stop your thread getting tangled. To begin sewing, we work 3 small back stitches on top of each other, being careful to only catch the fabric of the hem and not the actual garment. Work a small stitch and pull the thread through almost to the end, leaving a small tail of thread. Then work another stitch in exactly the same place. I use my thumbnail to stop the thread from the previous stitch being pulled out. Work another stitch in exactly the same place, and this secures the thread without the need for a knot. As you can see, these stitches are only in the folded fabric, not the actual garment. To begin, catch a few threads of the fabric of the main garment. Then, with this stitch still on the needle, bring the needle out towards you through the fold of the hem, keeping the needle at a slight angle, and then pull the thread tight. For the next stitch, move along the hem about 1/2 centimetre and repeat the previous steps. Take a few threads from the main fabric of the garment and then bring the needle down through the folded fabric of the hem at a slight diagonal angle. This should produce tiny, almost invisible stitches on the right side. Keep working the stitch in the same way. Take a few threads from the main fabric and, keeping the needle on the diagonal, bring the needle out through the edge of the hem. Notice how we are moving along the hem about 1/2 centimetre each time. This is how you create those long diagonal stitches on the wrong side that help to keep the hem flat. It may also help to think about this stitch as being worked in a downwards motion with the needle pointing towards you. Make sure to pull your thread tight as you work to keep the hem held firmly in place. Even with my bright orange thread, the stitches are so small you can hardly see them. Keep working in this way, catching just a few threads from the garment and bringing the needle diagonally down and out through the hem. With practice, this becomes very quick to work. Here's the stitch a bit faster so that you can see how it works in practice. You can see how those diagonal stitches pass over the folded hem edge, keeping it nice and flat. Once I reach the end of my hem, I finish off my thread in the same way that I started off. by working 3 small back stitches on top of each other. And there we have our completed overcast hem. You can see just how tight and secure this stitch is, and it is barely visible from the right side. I hope you enjoyed this video and found this tutorial useful. If you're looking for a tutorial for a different sort of hem, there should be some cards on the screen that will take you to those now. Thanks for watching, see you next time.